Welcome to the Show Don't Tell Writing Podcast with me, Susie Vidori, where I peel back the layers of how to wow your readers with your fiction, your nonfiction. Anybody can bang out a first draft, but it takes a little more work to make your book as amazing as it can be. Join me as I share the step-by-step writing techniques you could apply to your writing right away, as I host successful writers who share a behind-the-scenes look at their own writing lives, and as I live coach writers on their pages, giving practical writing examples that will make your own writing stronger. Nobody is born knowing how to write an engaging book. There are real and important skills that you need to learn. On this show, I cut through the noise and get you all the info you need. I can't wait to see how this information is going to transform your writing. I'm excited to have on the show today, Jenny Hoops. Today, we're going to talk about audiobooks and demystifying it. In fact, I had invited Jenny Hoops when I met her. I was like, oh my gosh, you have all the answers that writers ask me about all the time. And we talked so long about it that there's a part 1 and a part 2. So make sure that you listen to them both. Jenny Hoops is the founder of Snowdog Audio. She's an experienced audiobook producer whose greatest joy is creating audio editions that authors can brag about. With training in audio engineering and a passion for literature, she's worked with authors and narrators to bring over 100 novels, 100 books, nonfiction books, and poetry collections to life. She's an engaging studio director, working with authors, professional speakers, and voice actors to help them bring their authentic voices to their audiobook. I met Jenny because she was working with one of my authors who had recorded in another studio, but as is typical in most places in this space, that's where the help ends. Jenny actually goes one step further and helps her clients do all the uploading and know what to do with those files. It's one thing to just get the files, but to know what to do with them. So that's why I wanted to talk to Jenny about all things audiobook here today so that you could learn about it. Her first career was as a science technologist in Alberta, followed by a 14-year gig as an international motivational speaker. And that guided her to working with professional speakers and self-published authors. She understands both the craft and the business of publishing so that her clients are not only proud of their audio edition, they learn how to market it too. Jenny actually lives with her family near Bragg Creek, Alberta, Canada, which is pretty close to me. It's in a neighboring town. And who is the snow dog of Snowdog Audio? It's her mascot and her family golden retriever. Welcome to the show, Jenny. It's so good to see you.
Yeah. You too. You're looking awesome today.
Thank you. We were just talking about the fact that even if we're at home in our own studios, we need to dress up for work. Jenny was better at that than I am, but it's great, right? Like everybody has their own process.
It's all about the mindset. Like, how do you go to work? And for me, I have to put on the clothes. I have to put on the makeup. I am ready for work when I'm dressed with shoes and I'm ready. That's when I can start.
You just said that. I'm going to admit I'm not wearing shoes, and that's okay, right? I'm in my own home. I'm an editor. I read for a living, and I need to be comfortable. Okay. But first of all, welcome to the show. We're going to talk all about audiobooks today. And I want to start with an easy question, maybe, but some of our listeners, this is really new, right? So,
of course, yeah.
What's an audiobook? Just set us up. What is an audiobook?
It is the text of the book read aloud. And
that's
at its most basic. It can come in a whole bunch of different forms. Like it used to be books on tape. And I remember a blind great aunt who would get these massive boxes of tapes from the CNIB. And she would play these like reel-to-reel tapes. And now it's gone through video and cassettes and all this kind of stuff. And now almost every audiobook is a digital download. So there are no physical audiobooks anymore. It's all a file that you download off the internet.
Amazing. And if that sounds daunting, we're going to talk all about that. It brings me right back. I know growing up, we wouldn't have listened to like War and Peace or something. tape, but certainly children's books before you could read, that was really common on cassette tapes, right? And then they have the
Yeah.
little chime when you turn the page and you kind of pretend that you're reading along and look at the pictures.
Yeah. Well,
Lots of different forms.
I'm a little older than you, so I actually had records, 33s and
Oh, I
45s.
had records,
Yeah,
but
you
not
put the record
45s, so
on
like
and you
full
follow.
ones.
Yeah, so you'd listen to it and you'd follow along, turn the page when it would go ding, and you would turn the page. And
Yeah,
I
I mean, this
remember
is
that
this has been a
forever.
long time coming, right? So this is
Yeah.
not a new concept, but who should consider creating an audiobook and why? Why should writers even consider doing an audiobook these days,
Well,
back
to
in
me,
this century?
yeah, well, yeah, in the new century. I actually don't think it's an option anymore to do or not do an audiobook. Just because there have been so many advances in publishing these days, and now the audio edition is just one more edition that you're expected to produce, along with the print and the ebook and the Kobo reader and the audio. There are a couple of exceptions. Cookbooks and how-to and dictionaries make awful audiobooks. And
I would imagine, yeah, we don't
yeah,
want to be
well,
listening to that.
well, some people do. There are blind people who must have these read out loud,
Sure.
and so they do have. But yeah, cookbooks and dictionaries make really
Okay.
bad
So we're
audiobooks.
starting with the premise. If you're listening, Jenny's advice is everybody that is producing a book needs to produce an audiobook. Okay. So we'll start there.
Yeah.
I know that when ebooks first started coming out, I talked to lots of writers who would say, I'm thinking of doing an ebook. And it felt like something so different, right? And I'm like, well, isn't
Right.
it just your book, but like in a different format, right?
It's your book
Just
in
a
a
little
different
bit.
format. Yeah.
Right. It's your book in a different format. You've done the work. Let's make it accessible to lots of other people. How is the audiobook market changing behavior in readers? It is changing, right? Readers are changing.
Completely. Yeah. So it's interesting because audiobook listeners tend to be a whole new market. So if you have traditionally sold to a lot of people in print edition, or you were like really big, you had a huge audience in ebooks, your audiobook listeners are probably not in that same group. They are people who, I mean, it used to be 40, 50 years ago that it was blind people who only listened to audiobooks. And now it's really switched. So it's people who are busy. And that's really just about everybody, because what we're doing is we're listening to audiobooks in the car as we're commuting. There's a lot of professional drivers, truck drivers. They'll listen to audiobooks because they don't want to just listen hour after hour to, the radio. So they're learning that way. And a lot of people like to multitask. So you're sitting there cooking dinner and listening to an audiobook. You're doing a lot of things while listening to your audiobook, and it's portable. You just have it on your iPhone and you listen with earbuds. So it's personal, it's private, and it's portable.
Yeah, I often do it. I listen to tons of audiobooks.
Yeah.
I also read books, but I read for a living. And so, at the end of the day, I've switched over almost exclusively for my pleasure reading because my eyes are tired. And it's like, as I get older, audiobooks, and it took me a while to actually get into it. And I hear this all the time. Oh, I don't process it auditory. It's hard for me to listen to audiobooks, but it takes practice, right? So if
it does. I'm actually a terrible person because I also have.
I don't believe you're a terrible person, Jenny.
I have a hard time listening to audiobooks, more because I am so involved in the production of them that when I listen to an audiobook, I am listening for the mistakes, the editing errors, the background noise. Like I am listening like a professional.
Fair enough. It's like how
so-
writers read, and
Yeah.
that makes sense too. I mentioned when I want to consume a book for pleasure, the last thing I want to do is open a paper copy of the book these days and curl up in bed because I've been reading all day, in all likelihood, unpublished manuscripts from many of our listeners.
My eyes are
So
tired.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah. My ears.
But that
get
makes
really
sense to me.
tired.
This is what you do for a living, and so it's not fun anymore. It's like turning your hobby into a job. That makes perfect sense to me. And listening for the mistakes, As we were setting up here, Jenny's like, "Hey, you should be doing this with your mic. It was great." And hopefully we sound terrific today.
Oh, you're
So
sounding
yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it's your job and you're excellent at it, but I could totally see this. But for those who are listening going, "Oh my gosh, like I have a book coming out and I wasn't going to do an audiobook." When in the process should they be thinking about doing an audiobook?
Well, there's the ideal, and then there's like whatever you can do. So if you are already thinking right from the very beginning, you're writing your book and you're thinking with the audio edition in mind, the time to actually start doing things, like if it's fiction and you want to cast a narrator or a couple of narrators, you'll be thinking as you're writing your book and editing it, who do I picture being the voice of this book? If it's self-help, if it's nonfiction, then it should be the author reading it. And frankly, you should be reading your text out loud anyway, because that's how you know if it makes sense. If you have this really horrible structure of a sentence and you can't read it without stumbling, well, maybe that's the time to go back. So during the editing is often the best place to start thinking about the audio. When you actually want to start producing it, you need to have the finished final edit. And so between the time you hit, okay, I'm done, and the time you publish, in those hopefully a couple months, you've got some time before your launch. And that way, you've got time to read the final edit of the book. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because it takes some time. I mean, when I have to do a full audio production, including, casting and getting narrators and doing it, if really pressed, I can get it done in 3 weeks. But boy, oh boy, I don't do anything else for those 3 weeks. It is really tough. Preferably, if you've got a couple months, and that gives you time to put out the casting call, listen to some narrators and their auditions, and decide which ones. Go back and forth a little bit with the narrator on, the tone and the character voices that you are really excited about, and say, well, I have a particular voice in mind when I was writing this book. This is what was in my head. And so if you've got some time, that would be ideal, a couple months to do it. You send it to the narrator, they produce it, it gets back, you get to proof it as the author. You get the final say, go through it and say, okay, yeah, I like this, I don't like it. And then we upload and it gets published. It's pretty
Okay.
straightforward.
So there's so many concepts in there. And so if you're a little bit lost, casting and narrators and woo, this sounds like a lot of work, Jenny. But we'll go through all of that. I mean, the question was, and I think we got the answer, but I want to call it out here, that you're suggesting, and I know that your advice is to put the audiobook out the same day as the rest of the formats, right? So what if, yeah. And why is that?
Well, because when you launch your book, you have got a big splash. So you are doing all, the interviews. You're making sure everybody knows about your book. You have the splash. The
launch, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you want the launch. And so if your audiobook comes out after the launch or long after the launch, then you're trying to let people know, oh, wait, there's also an audio edition. And you've already missed that audience that was eager to get a first, like a really early edition of the audio. It's just that when you have an audio edition that launches like quite a long time after, so a lot of people, even a year or two after the book launch, they will say, oh, I'll do the audio now. What you're then doing is you're trying to promote the audio edition of a backlist book. So it's the buzz is gone.
It's an uphill battle, right?
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you're in this and you have any control, the suggestion would be delay the launch of everything else and do it all together versus get it out. And I mean, that's always the advice I give to authors as well, is have that 3 to 4 month runway between the time that you finished your book and you're launching so that you can actually promote it, because otherwise you're missing out on a huge thing. And even, I mean, authors that are the most successful sometimes have a year, right? Or more.
Long time,
where, and we're always, so quick to say, oh, I just have to get it out. But here's the thing. whether you're publishing nonfiction or fiction, the fact that you have a book coming out next year and you know the date and you can tell them how it's being published and everything else, you can still talk about that, right?
Yeah.
So as
Oh,
soon
yeah.
as you set that launch date, you are a viable commodity. But it's much different to say, hey, I had a book come out 10 years ago or last year, right?
Yeah.
So milk it. Give yourself that runway, delay that launch, that gratification as long as you can, because you're going to be better off. And so if one of those things that you know that you want to do, Jenny's saying everybody needs to do it. I know
Everybody
that
needs
not
to do
all
it.
authors feel that way, and that's okay. And it depends on the book, right? But if you think that you would like to produce an audiobook, definitely delay the launch and get it right, right?
Get it right,
I just
yeah.
see this so often that writers are just so eager to hit publish that they want their book out in the world that they don't think about this piece of it.
And they do a disservice to the audio listeners who actually want to hear the book because they want to get the full picture. They don't want to miss out just because the audio wasn't ready yet.
And as you mentioned, they're often different readers, right? People who like audiobooks are not going to read your hard copy, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and actually most
Or
of
not
the time.
necessarily.
Yeah, it's I want to I've been working this year with an author. She lives in Edmonton, and she has been the most prepared author I have met. She like you were saying, a full year before she launched her book, she was putting everything in place. So, I mean, getting the funding for, applying for the grants, but also setting up the audiobook so that it would all launch at the same time. And
it's a really smart strategy if you have the patience, which I would say you should. Okay, so but what if writers are working with a publisher? How does that work? So most of this is assuming that they have full control over their audiobook, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But how does it work if you have a publisher and they're, what are you seeing publishers doing these days with audiobooks?
We'll be right back.
Hi, writer. Want my support to get your book finished and out into the world? Join my Inner Circle membership, a community of supportive writers where each month we set goals, share pages, learn new techniques, and get you unstuck fast so that you can make continuous progress on your writing goals. Coached Writers Finish. And you can get me as your virtual book coach in this group program for only $199 a month, much less than a single one-on-one coaching session. Check out the details at susiebedory.com/inner circle. We have live events happening all the time, so grab your spot now to join us.
The really big publishers, Penguin and
Big Five,
the Big Five, they all have their own audiobook production arms. They have studios galore, and they all take the rights to the audio.
Yeah.
So they
and that's typical. I mean, 5 years ago, you could still ask to keep your audiobook rights, and that is not the case anymore. It's very rare that people will buy the print rights. A neat thing that I'm seeing sometimes, if you're lucky, if your book is really awesome and you're self-publishing or hybrid publishing or publishing with a publisher who doesn't produce audiobooks, because they do. I mean, there's lots of publishers who don't.
Quite a few, yeah.
Still, like mid-list publishers or small publishers, it is possible to sell those rights on their own. So pay attention. I mean, if your publisher is asking for the audiobook rights, but they don't actually intend to produce an audiobook, push hard, keep the rights, and then you can do what you want.
Push really hard, yeah. Now, a lot of those mid-list and smaller publishers, what they do is they farm out the audio to audiobook producers. So there's a lot of production companies like mine who all we do is work for publishers who are so they are not them producing the audiobook in-house, but they are assigning it to it. So it's a contractor kind of job. And there's lots of independent audiobook contractors who work for publishers, large and small. And it's a little bit easier for small publishers to work with a contractor because then they don't have to have people on staff or
Well, and they aren't putting that many out in a year either.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
can't
that's right.
justify having people in-house
Yeah.
and building that expertise. That
Yeah,
makes sense. Okay.
exactly. But tell you the truth, there's a lot of publishers who really don't want to get involved with audio, and so if you ask, they will certainly revert the audio back to the author, and then the author is free to do whatever they want. So,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we're convinced we need an audiobook. So what do we need? Okay, so when we're producing a book, you need the manuscript, then you need to get it formatted, then you need to design a cover, and then you need files, like all the things, right?
Right.
That's for like an ebook or for a published book,
Right.
for a physical book. What do we need? Like, what does it mean to make an audiobook? What are the
I'm
things
so
we
glad
need?
you asked. I have this list. So there's like a checklist. And
It's longer,
yeah,
right? Like it's way more complex than doing a print book in my view. Let's hear it.
not really, because what you do need is
Feels like it. You're here to demystify it for
the
us.
final manuscript. You
Yeah.
cannot keep editing the manuscript after you've given it to a narrator, because they're going to read the words that they were given, and then you can't afterwards have it narrated and go, oh wait, no, I changed that. You'll have to re-record. So for sure, you can't keep fiddling with the manuscript after you.
Okay, so we have that.
Yeah.
So once you have the manuscript, and then what else do we need?
Well, while you're getting your cover art made, have that artist also make it in audiobook format, because an audiobook cover is square, 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels. And it's so much easier if you just get your cover art done, make both editions at the same time, and then you've got them both ready.
It's pretty fast for the cover artist. They might charge you for that, but they might not, right? To just produce that extra thing. But after the fact, you're gonna struggle to get it, right?
After the fact, it's a pain in the butt, because you have to go and find the original artwork, make sure you can edit it and all that. You need to have, and I tell every author this, you should have your own ISBN number for your audiobooks. So every edition, every format gets its own ISBN. In Canada, you can get them for free. Every author can just go apply for an ISBN. In the United States, they go through a company called Bowker that will issue ISBNs. If you don't have an ISBN, one can be issued for you through Voices by In Audio will assign an ISBN, but it's not as useful as one that you get yourself.
So just stopping you for 1 second. So for those that are listening going like, what are you talking about?
What is that?
ISBN is the number that's going to be on the barcode, right? So
That's
if
right.
you have a physical book, it's on the barcode. We have those numbers assigned. It's a unique code in the world that will identify the sales for your audiobook. So you need that number. It's assigned by country. As Jenny mentioned, if you are in Canada, those are free, although make sure you order them in advance, because that process somehow is slow now, and it used to be instantaneous.
Yeah.
And if you live elsewhere, then look up the guidelines. But you need to have a unique number so that your sales can be tracked, so that we know when you hit the bestseller list, right?
That's right.
And how to pay you.
Every store gets lists that are all based on the ISBN number. So you want to be in catalogs. And if you don't have an ISBN number for your book or for your audiobook, you don't appear in most of the catalogs either. So it's
okay.
Yeah.
So we need
discoverability.
We need a cover. We need the finished manuscript. We need a cover. We need the ISBN. What else?
Your launch date and the price.
Launch date and price. Okay.
And price. Yeah. Well, price is something that you kind of set afterwards. And we can talk a lot about how prices for audio is set. It's a bizarre arcane system, and it's based on how long the book is rather than like the page count and the minutes.
And by how long, you mean how many hours?
How many
recording
hours
it takes to listen to it.
So, for example, on Audible, which is the world's largest distributor of audiobooks, it's the Amazon affiliate that does audiobooks. Audible does not let you pick the price for your audiobook when you upload it. It gets assigned to you based on the genre and how long your book is. So, yeah,
which is kind of nice in some ways. And I've got to say, I wish that were true in other ways, because the prices stay pretty high, right?
Yes.
Comparatively to ebooks or to print copies. Audiobooks actually sell for more And if you have subscriptions, of course, you can get a certain number for free and things like that through Audible and other subscription services. But that actually protects you from writers who are coming out and making them all free, and then you feel like you have to make yours free to compete. So there's good things and bad things about that, right? Okay.
Well,
so we've got
that's
these
true.
things. What else do we need?
You need to find somebody who knows what they're doing.
Fair. Hey.
Yeah, because it is a technical skill. It's like everything. Once you know the system and you know how it works, you can do it really easily and probably pretty quickly. But if you don't know what you're doing, there's a lot of places where you can do it wrong, and it's a lot of effort for not very successful feelings. It can be very frustrating. So,
Well, and you can either produce number one, you're going to waste a lot of time and have a lot of frustration, and maybe even waste a lot of money depending on how much you're outsourcing. And also you might end up with a really poor quality product.
Interestingly, there should be no poor quality products. And I say that if you're doing it yourself, by the time you get to try to upload it, if the quality is bad, that's where it stops, because it will just get rejected by all the distributor platforms. So at some point,
So I'm saying, though, if you do it and you do it quote unquote wrong and you want to put it out there, you can't, right?
So really
you've just wasted all that energy. Okay, so we're gonna find
all
somebody who knows what we're doing.
Yeah, find somebody who knows what they're doing and can help
and then
you.
what?
Then you record the book. So if you're recording it yourself, if you're a nonfiction author or a professional speaker with a book, you can record it either in your own home, just like you're doing right there with your microphone. That is how a lot of speakers I work with, a lot of authors and speakers record. Or you can go into usually it's a music studio, a local studio in town, and they will tend to also do audiobooks. Or you hire a narrator and they do it for you. Often fiction, you want to work with a professional narrator, just because they're able to do the voices and get the emotion of the text going.
They're professionals, and unless you're a professional actor.
Yeah.
If you're Chris Culver and you wrote, right? Like, I think that's an audiobook series that's amazing because he's an actor. And Chris Culver, who did The Land of Stories, he did his own audiobooks, even though they're fiction, because he's an actor. He's amazing. And it was really cool because my oldest was really into that series, when she was 10, 11 in her tweens. And then we went on a long family vacation with lots of car rides, and we listened to the audiobooks. She was like, Mom, it's like he's brought it alive again, and I'm listening to it in a whole new way.
So much better. Oh, yeah.
But if you don't have that skill, if you have fiction, consider hiring somebody who does. And in nonfiction, as you mentioned, I mean, I listen to a lot of nonfiction self-help, like things on writing and things on business and things on like lots of things.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to hear it from the speaker, from the writer themselves, because it's like you've just gone through a 10-hour seminar with them as your personal coach.
Exactly.
So it's really, it's difficult it's difficult to outsource that and get that same experience.
And, it's funny with and especially with professional speakers, or if they're nonfiction authors who sell courses or somehow, and the book is supporting all that they do, then you're looking at the brand of that person. Is their voice. So to have another narrator read that nonfiction book for them, it's not on brand anymore. And it makes it sort of a side product that isn't promoting their whole,
Exactly.
I
totally agree. Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a few things here. So we now know all the different, and then you end up with files that get uploaded, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Does an audiobook have to be the same as the manuscript?
No. And that's actually a controversial answer, believe it or not.
I agree. Yeah. I'm excited to hear your take.
Well, I've been doing audiobooks now for 11 years. And in that time went from thinking it had to be 100% true to the text. So you couldn't use contractions. You had to include everything. Now, probably the last couple years, I have come to realize that you don't actually have to be that tightly bound to the text, because it's a whole different edition. So There's things like if you're referring to something further down the page, you would have to say, a few minutes ago, or in a second, I will talk about this. So you have to recognize that it's a different medium, that you're listening to the book rather. So I just feel that you have to have some leeway there to make the audio not just a literal reading of the book, but to recognize that people are hearing it, and therefore you're going to change a few things. You're going to describe any drawings or pictures or photos. You'll use an audio description of that. You will talk more about time rather than place in the book. So a few chapters back, we talked about this at the beginning. And so there's a lot of ways to adjust that. But in particular, especially with fiction, I find it really difficult when the narrator can't sound conversational. Sometimes the dialogue is written for reading, not for hearing. And I think there has to be some leeway there so that you get the same impression from the words, whether it is in print or in audio. You want that same feeling in the person receiving it, listening or reading. So I really think there's got to be a way to adjust so that you're taking the medium into account, not just reading a straight audiobook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for tuning in to the Show Don't Tell Writing Podcast with me, Susie Vidori. It is my absolute honor to bring you the straight goods for that book you're writing or the book that you're planning to write. Please help me keep the podcast going by helping people find us. You can subscribe to the podcast and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening to show how much you enjoy the show. That's how other listeners will find us. Also, visit susievidori.com/newsletter to hop on my weekly inspired writing newsletter list, where you'll stay inspired and be the first to know about all the upcoming training events and writing courses that happen in my community. Want my eyes on your writing? Submit a page of your current draft for a chance to come on the podcast at the link in the show notes. I'd love to chat with you about your writing in my always positive, incredibly supportive way so that you can make great strides towards your writing goals. I'm here to cheer you on. Remember, that book you're writing is going to open doors that you haven't even thought of yet, and I can't wait to help you make that it the absolute best it can be. See you again right here next week.